Welcome to the final episode of Beacon Pines. This is the full ending, the true canon ending. Strap in, you're in for a ride. This game I found incredibly moving, honestly. It came along at just the right time, and yeah, it affected me, so there's definitely some emotions towards the end of this one. Apologise for that, but it is what it is. We've all been there. Hit like if you've been there, you know, and enjoy the video. Thank you for coming on this adventure with me. Luca had no choice but to refuse Iggy's request. He tightened his grip and reached for the walkie-talkie in his pocket. A wild delight crept onto Mr. Kerr's face. "That's a good lad. Radio for help." Iggy begged Luca with his eyes one last time, but Luca pressed the button and called out, We need help. Mr. Kerr is in danger." It wasn't long before they were once again surrounded by clipboards. Mr. Kerr sighed with relieved frustration. "There you are. You really are a worthless lot, aren't you? Mirror, now." A clipboard dutifully produced an ornate ivory hand mirror, and Mr. Kerr began preening his tousled hair. That's better. "Mr. Van Horn, I applaud your sharp thinking under duress. I'll put in a good word for you with the founder. Take them away." A swarm of hands overpowered Luca. The last thing he saw before a cloth bag was pulled down over his head was the defeated look on Iggy's face. The end? So it must be Tickle. All the way back here. Tickle. "Hey Tish, wanna see something cool?" "Yup." "Check in." Beck lunged forward and began to tickle under Tish's arms. "What the? Tish, is she tickling you?" "Ayo. Ayo. Ayo." Tears began to form in Tish's eyes as she gasped for breath between gales of laughter. "Ayo, ayo, ayo." Beck redoubled her efforts until Tish finally had had enough. "What just happened?" "She seems nice." "Sorry for the interruption. I think you were just threatening us." Iggy's eyes darted around, a realization dawning on his face that he was now outnumbered. "I just remembered. I got somewhere to be." "See you around, new kid." Iggy kicked at the puddle before making his escape. Whoa. What a little creep. Now it's on her. Beck, I think you got a little ooze in your hair." Beck shook the ooze out of her hair as best she could. "Is it bad?" "Depends. What are your feelings about a more mature, refined look?" "It ages you." Oh god. Luca paused for a moment, catching his breath. He'd only just met Beck, and somehow he already managed to drag her into this mess. Hopefully he could make it up to her, but finding Rollo was his primary concern. "Luca, what the hell are you doing out here? Why did a kid with grey hair just run past us in a panic?" Roxy and Fitz looked drained. It was clear they'd spent all day searching. "That's Beck. I don't care who she is. What happened?" "We were just helping look for Rollo." "Luca, I need you to start telling me the truth." Roxy's temper could often be dismissed as the impatience of an older sibling, but this was the most intense Luca had ever seen her. Her eyes were wild and unfocused, looking straight through Luca. "We're running out of time." In a torrent of rambled words and tears, Luca broke down. "Rollo and I were just playing in the Reaping Wood yesterday. Weren't playing. We were investigating lights at Valentine Warehouse. Someone was there in a strange suit, and we hid in the dumpster and had a heavy bag dropped on us, and I think it was a body. And we ran, but we got split up, and I ran home, and it's all my fault. And now my best friend will never come back." "Aw, well. Well." Roxy, still exhausted and angry, softened briefly as her eyes hunted the ground in thought. With a determined sigh, She looked up at Luca. It's not your fault, Luca. Rollo's gonna be okay. I promise. Roxy drew herself up. Gonna fix this. Luca? Go home. I wanna help. This is too dangerous for a kid. I can't just sit around. I have to do something. Roxy tried to think of the safest place to send Luca. You go back to that little treehouse that you two like to play in. Wait there in case Rollo shows up. Sound like a plan? Luca wiped his cheeks and gave a quick nod. You did the right thing, telling me the truth. You really believe his story? What other option do we have? Things have been strange around here leading up to the festival. My dad has been acting weird lately. Well, weirder than normal. Looking into the puddle, Roxy rubbed her arms to warm up. Why is it so cold here? This place gives me the willies. Wait at the treehouse. Mr. Nuncreed jumped with a start. Oh, whoa. Don't sneak up on an old fella like that. Sorry. Who are you talking to? Or? Luca motioned to the phone booth. Oh, no. I was just checking because I thought I heard it ring. But the dang thing never does, of course. Yeah, never seen anyone use it, really. The whole thing is a waste of money, if you ask me. Any word from Rollo yet? Not yet. Long time for a boy to lose his way. Rollo knows those woods too rare to get lost. Suppose you're right. Silly boy's antics got this whole town worried sick. Antics? We all know Rollo likes to play his little pranks. You think this is a prank? What other possible explanation could there be? He's not playing a prank and he didn't get lost. Someone took him, I know it. How'd you know that? Unless... Luca, is there something you know? Mr. Nuncreed gently placed one of his substantial hands on Luca's shoulder. Dang it, boy, if there's something you know. Something that could help your friend, you need to tell folks. Luca peered up at Mr. Nuncreed. Kind eyes warmed a stern face. There was a deeper emotion hiding beneath it all. It was subtle, but Luca could sense something eating away at him. There was a... shame. A deep sadness. If Mr. Nuncreed was that worried about Rollo, maybe he could help. No, it's malice. It's malice! Yesterday, Rollo and I were messing around at the old Valentine warehouse. Mr. Nuncreed raised an eyebrow. Both of you? You were with Rollo when he went missing? Not exactly. I was hiding in the dumpster. The dumpster? What were you doing in there? At first, we were just looking around. Then someone in a strange yellow suit came and dumped something on us. We both got scared and ran. That was the last I saw of him. You got scared by some garbage? Well, that's why you don't go skulking in someone's dumpster. It wasn't garbage. I think it was a body. I'm sure it was just some trash. No, there was a name tag. It said Deep Engineering. Mr. Nuncreed's shoulders slumped. I wish you wouldn't have said that. A deep sigh bellowed from his chest. Why did you have to? I tried, Luca. God knows I tried to keep you safe. Luca attempted to take a step back, but Nuncreed's hand clamped down on his shoulder. You Van Horns just can't help yourselves, can you? We're all so close to being done with this. With a firm shove, Nuncreed manhandled Luca into the phone booth.
What you doing?
It's out of my hands now. The door latched shut with a mechanical hiss. Shit. As Luca pounded the glass, the floor dropped from under his feet. The inside of the phone booth was now a loose capsule plummeting at gravity's whim. Luca winced and pressed his hands to the walls. As he braced for impact, the capsule hurried to a surprisingly smooth stop. He felt a cold rush of air and opened his eyes with hesitance. Two large figures in hazmat suits occluded his view. Luca heard the deep, resigned voice of Mr. Nuncreed over an intercom. He knows too much. The end. Wait, no, this isn't the end. I know there's still much more. Okay. Malice. Look, we're going up that tree. A whole new branch. There was malice. Like a trap ready to spring. Luca felt the weight of Nuncreed's hand on his shoulder. Something wasn't right. He didn't know why, but something was telling Luca to get out of there. I just want this all to be over. Of course, I'm sure it'll all be over soon enough. I should get going. I told Roxy I'd check for ROLO at the treehouse. Luca twisted free of Nuncreed's grasp. Of course. Luca, you know your dad and I were good friends back in the day. You can come to me with anything. Anything at all. See ya, bitch. I mean... Bye. Bye. What? Who's this? These festival decorations are a bit humdrum. Now if I were to throw a festival... Something. I agree. This is all more than a little sad. It's worse than sad, it's boring. What if we did a little something to spice things up? I'm listening. You know that festival sign waiting to be unveiled? It would be a shame if someone... Ah, we saw the other end of that. Rearranged it into his own name. Identify yourself, please. Nellie Modeville. I work here. Unable to locate you on our staff roll. Oh, I don't officially start till tomorrow. Mr. Kerr said I could come in early tonight and get a few things done. Hold. Clearance authorized. Thank you. Our harvest awaits. To the tree house. Maybe do a little fishing. Should have a whole bunch of charms to fish up now. Actually, probably too many. I really want to know what happens in the story. ROLO? He aired a long hollow into the woods. ROLO! ROLO, wherever you are, I hope you're okay. Luca felt his eyes getting heavy and plopped into the beanbag. Plop. He conceded to its lumpy embrace. Once again, Luca found himself in a vast black expanse. This time he knew exactly where to go. He took a single confident step forward. The world flickered and pulsed. He found himself standing in front of the frigid air of a blazing campfire. The source. He plopped down cross-legged and gazed into the cold flame. Waiting. Soon enough, the fire began to die out, popping sporadically until all that was left was a single ember. Luca stood up and dusted himself off. He plucked the glowing ember from the cold ash, examined it and slid it into his pocket. A keepsake. The voice of his father spoke behind him. You made me proud, buckaroo. Luca turned to face him. Dad, where is this place? A warm grin grew across his father's face. A place where everything that has been and everything that could be all wait together. Luca found himself staring at his father's face, trying as hard as he could to memorize every single detail. Wait, for what? Another voice spoke out as Luca's doppelganger stepped forward. That's up to you. Without knowing why, Luca began to weep. Is any of this real? Are you real? Luca's father bent down to smudge away a tear. Of course. As real as the part of you that misses me. Luca turned to look at the older version of himself. And you? The doppelganger choked back tears. I'm as real as the part of you that's angry he's gone. Does that make sense? Through his tears, Luca laughed. I think so. His father pulled him in for an embrace. Time to go, buckaroo. Luca was startled from his dream by a banging on the floor. You in there? A commanding voice rumbled from below. Just as Luca sprang to lock the entry hatch, the door knocked open. Dangers, big and small. Luca stumbled back. He heard the rope ladder creak under significant weight. Keeping his eyes fixed on the hatch, he inched backward to the balcony. As the hand grasped the door handle, Luca froze. A large figure clumsily wriggled up through the hole. Rollo? Stop right there. Wow. Sheesh. I know it's dark and all, but I figured you'd recognize me. Who are you? The large figure cocked its head inquisitively. Stop now or I'll clobber you with a baseball bat. Whoa, take it easy. Luca, you need to get your eyes checked. It's me, Rollo. Nice try, but I know you aren't Rollo. You're like one of his random uncles or something. Where is he? Uncle. Luca, quit messing around. It's me. If it really is you, prove it. Flaming chicken coop, Luca. Luca's jaw dropped. He peered more closely at the man standing in front of him. Something about him was undeniably Rollo. Only bigger, older, changed. How? What happened? When I was running away, I ran into more people in those yellow suits. They grabbed me, dragged me away. Where did they take you? Dunno, threw a bag over my head. It was cold, smelled like a swimming pool. I think it was an underground lab or something. They made my hands all big, look. Rollo proudly presented his hands to Luca. Pretty sweet, right? I mean, it wouldn't be my first pick for a superpower, but beggars can't be choosers. Rollo, it wasn't just your hands. My feet too? Dang, Pa just made me new shoes. Wait, Luca, why are you so small? Luca moved to the side and pointed Rollo to his reflection in the balcony window. What? The... His hand shot up to his face. Holy Toledo. Rollo, what did they do to you? Made me drink some sort of green crud. Ew. Actually, it wasn't too bad. Kind of tasted like licorice. I passed out and woke up like this. And then I sort of smashed open my cage and escaped. You smashed open a cage? Kinda. At least I think I did. It's all a bit of a blur. They had you in a cage. Who are these people? I don't know who did this to you. We're gonna fix it. Fix it? This is awesome. I'm just glad you're safe. Luca, You don't need to worry about me. Sure, I got snatched, but look at it this way. I got snatched. I know where snatched people go. We may finally have a lead on what happened to your family. Maybe you're right. But this all seems dangerous. Danger. Rollo shadowboxed a few jabs. I'll take them all on. Hey fellas, what's up? With a yelp, Rollo dove behind Luca. Take cover! Did I come at a bad time? Who the heck are you? This is Beck. Sorry, something truly bizarre just happened and I need help. I didn't know where else to go. So, you're just hanging out with your large adult friend? No, this is my buddy, Rollo. This is your missing friend? One and the same. He seems a little old. I'll have you know this is a recent development. The heck does that mean? I mean, what the heck does that mean? Oh god. Getting mixed up. Oh, I'm sorry. You're the one who just showed up out of nowhere. So we'll be asking the questions here. That's fair. How'd you find us? Your silly little treehouse? I think you mean our silly little mission control. Hate to break it to you, but your secret path isn't so secret. And I could hear your racket from a mile away. See, Luca? This is why we need to improve security around here. Not now, Rollo. Beck, you said something bizarre happened? Yeah, but... She shot a nervous glance at Rollo. Anything you say around me, you can say around him. It's been a weird day all around, isn't it? Yep. What's under the hat, Beck? Beck's eyes narrowed. So it all started when I made it back home. My first order of business was to try and salvage my hair. So I dyed it with some stuff from the chemistry set my mum gave me. Okay, just need to play it cool. And hope no one notices. Notices what? Ah, nothing. I was just... Come over here, let me have a look. Honey, what in the world did you do to your hair? Just kind of felt like a change. This is going to take forever to grow out. You were the one who said change was a good thing, right? I was talking about your mother's new job. I was talking about us moving. Well, I guess I just took your lesson to heart. Ilona tried to put on a smile. Before I forget, I came up here to tell you that Nellie had to go to work. Tonight? Her and Mr. Kerr decided it'd be good for her to get some things done before tomorrow. Kerr guy seems like a grade A creep. Beck. He is, him and his weird cult of personality. You are not going to ruin this job for Nellie. It means too much to her. Oh, I know exactly how much it means to her. It means enough to her to exile her daughter to this podunk town. This place sucks. People are weird. Just don't know them yet. It's always cold. We're in the mountains. We'll get used to it. I can't even pick up a single decent station on the radio. It's all banjo music and farm reports. You know, I grew up in a town not that different from this one. Is that why you're better at talking to plants than people? Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. First of all, you're grounded. What? In the morning, I'll have Nellie come and see what we can do about fixing your hair. You need to look presentable for the festival. But not another peep. She sighed, and after a moment looked down at Beck sympathetically. I know moving's hard, honey. Doesn't mean you have to make yourself miserable all the time. Other people seem to have it covered for me. Oh, and if you decide to rebel by dyeing your hair more, she flashed a sly grin and tousled Beck's hair. I'll just shave it off for you. Think of how rebellious you'll look then. Very funny. Thank you. Good night, sweetie. Good night, Mum. Wait. First of all, this town does not suck. Second, you need help because you got grounded. No. Sorry you got in trouble. It's my fault your hair got screwed up in first place. Don't worry about it. I actually kind of like this look. Great. Can we get back to story now? The next part is the important bit. I have this radio I upgraded with my mum, and I was too angry to sleep. So I tried to dial in on something worth listening to. Mr. Kerr, are you there? Mr. Kerr? Yes, I'm busy. What is it? Apologies, I have the founder on the line. Patch him through immediately. One moment. Hello, sir. It's so nice to hear from you. Skip the pleasantries. What's your report on our new lead researcher of deep engineering? Nellie Bodwell seems to be integrating nicely. At this very moment, she's working to help us meet our deadline. She offered to work overtime before I even had the chance to suggest it. Excellent. You have faith that she's capable of finishing the work left by her predecessor. Her work must be complete before the festival. I'll make sure she stays day and night. Good. You know how I feel about loose ends. Yes, sir. Once she's finished the work, we need to make a determination regarding her. Long-term prospects in the company. Immediately, sir? I usually have more time to fully bring people into the fold. We're in the endgame, Bill. After your failures with Dr. Prescott, I can't afford to take any risks. Of course, sir. No loose ends, sir. Once she finishes the work, she'll either leave the office completely committed to perennial harvest, or she won't leave at all. Perfect. Sir, if I might suggest, maybe we should delay just for a bit. Oh? We seem to be rushing to hit this festival deadline. And rushing into things has caused some issues in the past. I see. Please understand that I just want what's best for you. I'm eternally grateful for all you've done for me. Bill, I'll make this clear. I brought you in to make things run smoothly, not to have opinions. Of course, sir. Chin up, Bill. You're only a few days away from having everything you ever dreamed of. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Wow. Yeah. Just so we're clear, when they said loose ends, they were talking about murder, right? Like actually killing someone? Capital murder? Luca gave Rollo a quick elbow to the ribs. Who's this founder? I was hoping you guys would know. Now, as far as we know, Kerr is top banana at Perennial Harvest. He sounded scared of this founder guy. So we have an even topper banana on field. The hell is my mum caught up in? Has she talked about her job match? Not really. She said she was going to come in and continue the work of someone she respected. Luca, do you think that body at the warehouse was the person that Beck's mum came to replace? That would make sense. Beck, it seems like Nellie's predecessor got loose-ended. I'm getting that impression. Okay, we need to get your mum out of there before the festival happens. That's 2 days away. Won't she just come home after work? Creep on the radio said they're going to hold her there until then. So if she's not coming out, we gotta go in. Beck flicked a large sheet of paper out of her pocket and slammed it on the floor. Maybe this will help. You have blueprints. It's really just a welcome map for my mum's PH orientation day. But it shows the layout. Sure looks like blueprints to me. Look, here's a reception area. Big room marked Founder's Office. Even has the exits marked. Guys. We've got a deadline. We have an objective. We have blueprints. You realise what this is, right? Rollo started to wiggle with excitement. I think we're heisting. That's exactly what I was going to say. This is officially a heist. Nice. Chapter 6. The Heist. They spent the night's end huddled around that small map, formulating a plan to infiltrate the headquarters of Perennial Harvest. It would be no small feat, a modern facility equipped with all manner of technology. Not to mention the swarm of clipboards that would most certainly be scattered throughout. By the time the sun began to peek through the car window used as a makeshift balcony door, all were in agreement. This could just work. Final day before the festival would be used to prepare. They'd need to pull every resource at their disposal, pull every favour with a thread. Even enlist some unsavoury characters around town with important tasks only they were suited for. Luckily, there was enough ill will and mistrust towards Perennial Harvest that alliances could be found at a bargain. Luca, Beck and Rollo rubbed their eyes as they exited the treehouse. They hadn't slept at all that night. There was no time. The festival was to begin in one day, and each had their assignments. Alright, quick recap. Rollo, you're going to talk to Roxy. Cordially. Without her and Fitz, this whole thing could go bust. Me, Cordial's my middle name. Uh-huh. And how do you plan to explain your new... He waved vaguely at Rollo's sizable figure. Circumstance. She'll be so happy I'm alive she won't even notice. Beck snorted an involuntary giggle. And Beck, you're sure Ilona won't just shoot this whole thing down when she hears it? She'll listen. Once she understands the danger Nellie is in, the danger we're all in, the plan will make sense. Okay. That leaves me with Jeff and then Iggy. How are you going to persuade them? I'll think of something. I knew we'd be using Iggy in this heist. I got a good feeling. I feel like this has to be like the canon true ending. A heist with all of the kids involved. They each looked at each other with sleepy confidence and nodded. Well, Godspeed. Enlist the help of Jeff, Iggy and Tish. I'm gonna catch some more of these chums. Hi Dad, look at me, I'm so cute. A dear little fish. Oh, pick out the bait. Has... Oh wait. Oh, only pungent is one. Luca wrapped a twig of thyme around the hook. Some fish have refined taste. Listen, I know that that's thyme. I don't know why I suddenly thought it was going to be pronounced thyme for a second, but it just threw me. Yeah, I'll put some thyme on the chicken. There we go. Property of Sharper Valentine. Figures. If he had his way, property of Sharper Valentine would be written on everything in this town. Should we give it back to him? He may not even want it back. Man's got a contentious relationship with time. We'll keep it here in case he ever wants to pick it up. Bye, Dad. I think Jeff is that old weasel, right? Where would I find Jeff? Maybe up here? Maybe in the diner or something? I guess Miss Fratelli's getting ready for the festival. I don't know where that guy hangs out. What's down here? No. Oh, Jeff. Where are you? There he is. Hello, Jeff.
What can I do for you?
Well, I know how much you hate Printer Harvest.
Hate's a strong word.
Oh, sorry, I mean...
I didn't say it was the wrong word.
Gotcha. So we're going to break into the headquarters, and I thought you might be able to help. Jeff wheezed out a long snicker.
You see, I knew you kids were alright.
Great, so your help? The joy in Jeff's face drained instantly.
Not a chance.
But...
give me one good reason I should risk my hide aiding and abetting you rascals.
Looking into the sullen eyes of his would-be accomplice, Luca blurted out the first word that came to mind. Shit. Fight. Junk. He likes junk, right?
Yeah, what of it? Sonny, I got more junk than a king has copper. Ain't interested.
Oh. Luca wasn't ready to give up so easily. He shouted again. Shit.
Yeah, it's all shit. I still ain't helping. Ain't that some shit?
We have to fight.
I've done enough fighting for one lifetime. More than my share of losing. Time's come to hang up the gloves.
Hide. Jeff's brow perked up.
What'd you say?
Go ahead and hide then. Sensing some traction, Luca carried on with vigor. Let a bunch of kids do what needs to be done. We're not afraid. Jeff's scowl faded with a sigh.
Say what you will about old Jeff, and they all do. You could never hear him say I hid from nothing.
One good stomp with the foot was all Jeff needed to drive his point home.
What was it you kids needed?
Some sort of disguise. A disguiser.
I got just the thing.
And while we're at it, that crate should come in handy.
This ain't gonna be free. I'm thinking 5 bags of sour cops.
Put it on my tab. Luca offered his open hand to seal the deal. With a firm and dusty grip, Jeff reciprocated.
Done. Swing by first thing in the morning.
I like how this all feels very like heisty, but also very noir. Some of these conversations, but it being kids, it like reminds me of there's this film called Brick, which is basically a noir movie, but it's in high school. But it's like completely written and acted out like a normal noir movie, but it's just like high school kids doing it with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Tis a vibe. Now Iggy. Who would they be? The help of Iggy and Tish. Maybe they're up this way. No. Bum 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 bum. If I was a couple of bullies, where would I be? Outside the coffee shop? No. Maybe along the street. Sharper Valentine. Who's everyone's favourite character up to this point? Let me know in a comment if you haven't already. Who you liking? Oh, here they are. Hey Tish, look who it is. Luca, you here to try to tickle us to death again? Look, just hear me out. Iggy raised an eyebrow suspiciously. We're listening. Iggy, I know we've both been giant bags of shit to each other. Iggy gave a reluctant shrug. You're not wrong. But lately, life's been kinda... hard, you know? Hard? Yeah, well, life's always hard. Get over it, we ain't interested.
Okay, listen to me. Okay.
We've been bags of malice. Malice? Wow, Tish, smart guy here with his smart guy words, thinks he's impressing us. Scram!
Okay. Shut. Lately life's been strange. Things.
Iggy considered the point. Things have been weird around here. I'm offering a truce and asking for your help.
What you say we break our hostilities, at least for now?
You do like breaking things. Even if a truce means less breaking things. What if I told you there was a way to have a truce and break stuff? Go on.
I need you to cause a distraction so I can sneak into Perennial Harvest HQ.
A wild-eyed grin spread across Iggy's face. My, Luca Van Horn. I'm impressed.
And after all this is done, maybe you and Tish can come hang out at the treehouse sometime.
Iggy glanced over to Tish, who nodded in agreement. Fine. But not because we want to see your crappy treehouse. You just like to cause chaos. With a quick nod, Luca was off. Yes. Did you hear that, Tish? Iggy gazed up at Tish with a smile. He invited us to hang out at the treehouse. Iggy! I'm gonna cry. I love this character as well. Like the little, reformed bully. After that scene where they gave up and stuff, but he does just want to be in the treehouse. A single tear ran down Tish's cheek.
I never expected this day to come. How wonderful.
Oh, love those two. Into the hive. A good heist requires preparation, and thorough preparation takes time, something they had precious little of. So far, everything was in order. Jeff, Iggy, and Tish all agreed to do their part. Beck radioed Luca that night with a simple and covert message. We're locked and loaded on my end. And Rollo, after a lengthy confession, managed to persuade Roxy and Fitz to help. He stowed away in mission control for the night to avoid attracting attention. Rollo, being uniquely suited for the role, would be the first to breach Perennial Harvest. The outfit provided by Jeff wasn't perfect, but a convincing disguise is 10% wardrobe, 90% confidence. Rollo took a few vigorous breaths and shook out his arms. It's just a moustache. Just stay calm, Rollo. You can do this. Looking like Mario. Got your delivery, yeah? A delivery? I don't have anything in my notes about a delivery. One moment. So sorry, but there's no delivery scheduled for this morning. Right. He had to think quick. That's because this goes directly to Founder. He asked it be kept secret. Rollo sighed, adjusting his tool belt. You know how the Founder can be. I suppose we can leave this one off the records. Our harvest awaits and such. With a stroke of his moustache, Rollo proceeded into the Perennial Harvest headquarters. Our harvest awaits. We're in. Package here for Founder. Oh, I didn't hear anything about... Yeah, it's a need-to-know kind of thing. I'll just check. He stammered and flipped through the pages of his clipboard. This goes directly to Founder. I don't have time to fill you in. Oh, I see. If you could just complete this form... Rollo interrupted with urgency in his voice. Every time with the forms? Look, if you want to explain to the Founder why I'm late. It's your funeral? I'm sorry. What did you say your name was? I'm... Rollo, panicked. A harvest awaits? Sir? That's a restricted area. Excuse me, sir. A harvest awaits. Ready to light the candle, Tish?
Yup.
Suck on this, perennial ham fist. What was that? The distraction was enough for Rollo to regain his confidence. Just open the damn door. I got a job to do. The clipboard fumbled around in frenzy. I should check on that noise. Oh, come on. Just buzz me in. Okay, okay. Phew. That was close. Our harvest awaits. Hey, I figure, when in doubt, stick with the classics. Well, that was a close one. But you pulled it off. Nice work, Rollo. Alright, everyone knows what to do. Yep, deep engineering to the north. I'll go with Beck, in case you need some muscle. I'll head east, to the founder's office. You two, be safe. The founder's office. That's odd. Not even any caps for the water. Huh. Alright. 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 Solomon? Solomon stopped in his tracks. Luca? What are you doing here? It's a long story. You okay? A veneer of confusion flashed across Solomon's face. His words rushed out dramatically. No, I am most certainly not okay. Some strange people grabbed me and they're in hazmat suits. Yes, how did you know? They brought me here, locked me up, and when they were distracted, I ran. Dang, okay. You should stick with me, we've got a plan. Solomon's facade briefly faltered. We? Yeah, Rollo and Beck are headed to deep engineering. Oh no, don't tell him, Luca. Thank heavens you found me. We've got to get out of here. We can't leave yet. But they'll catch us. I've got to do something. When you were running, did you see a door marked Founder? Founder? Why are you looking for him? I'm not. I just need to get into that office. Now that you mention it, I do think I saw a door that said Founder. It was just down this way. Luca happened to notice a plaque above the door. Office of the Founder? Knocking comes with consequence. Oh, here it is. Oh, so it is. Pretty lucky I ran into you, or else I might have missed it. Truly fortunate. Luca tried the handle. Locked. Solomon leaned forward to examine the mechanism. Regrettably, it seems to be some sort of electric lock. I don't see how we could possibly defeat a lock like that. Luca smiled and looked at his watch. Let's just wait a minute. What you up to, mama? I don't know what sort of funny business you're up to, but I like it. She mimed a quick hat tip and ambled off with a whistle. Howdy. Good afternoon. The light on the keypad changed from red to green. How did you do that? It's good to have friends. Quick, let's get inside before someone spots us. Luca switched on his walkie-talkie. Rollo, I'm in. As expected, there's a control panel. Great timing. We're stuck at locked door mark 24601. Need you to get us through. What if someone catches us? We should get out of here. I'm not leaving my friends, Solomon. On the computer screen, a green cursor blinked in a password field. Surely you don't have a way to get around the password. Luca pecked out his best guess. Underground secrets. The screen blinked to life. Columns of green numbers glowed on a black background. How did you just guess that? It's this absurd password that Rollo heard when he was down here before. It's funny how someone arrogant enough to call themselves the founder uses such a basic password. Or were they thinking several moves ahead, not expecting anyone to guess something so simple? These villain types always end up outsmarting themselves. Solomon's jaw clenched into a half smile. Your powers of deduction are as impressive as your luck. Luca quickly scanned the columns for 24601. Rollo, I think this should do it. Bingo bango, doors open. Luca, you never fail to impress. What is that slippery lout even doing down there? Here. We have a friend whose mum's in trouble. We're here to get her out. I see. Okay, Luca, I think we're close. Next door's marked 13806. Once again, Luca scrutinized the numbers on the screen. In that moment of distraction, Solomon reached forward and pressed a large red button. Maybe this one opens the lock. Crap. We've got company. Luca, must go faster. Jurassic Park reference. One sec. I can't think with all this noise. He quickly skimmed the screen with his finger. Here it is. Go, go, go. Curse these fumbling hands. My apologies, Luca. Don't beat yourself up. I know you were trying to help. Was he? Make it wet. Oh man, no water cups? Rollo. I thought he was going to like make the floor wet and they would slip or something. Rollo, are you okay? Rollo, come in. Mr. Kerr approached with a sneer and spoke into his walkie-talkie. You can turn off the alarms, they're trapped. With self-satisfaction, he called into the hallway. That, my dears, is a dead end. Nowhere to run. Rollo, where are you? Are you okay? Yeah, I think we lost him. Making our way back to Nellie's office. Okay, you two rabble-rousers are coming with us. Nope. Make a break for it. Did that little shit just kick me? Don't just stand there after them. Okay, I think that worked. Roxy and Fitz have him on a wild goose chase. I'm having trouble following what just happened. Like I said, it's good to have friends. Rollo, how long do you think Roxy can distract him? How long can Roxy keep someone so pissed off they can't see straight? Let's just say we got time. Entering Nellie's office now. Mum. Oh, honey, what did you do to your hair? I thought you'd be happy. I finally used the Young Chemist's Lab kit. You sure have a knack for making me incredibly proud in the most frustrating ways. We need to get you out of here. Who's your adult friend? Oh, I'm not an adult. Ever heard of a growth spurt? I had more of a growth spew. No, that's not possible. Nellie leaned over to examine his teeth. Substantial banding on the enamel of the molars consistent with Tempest liquamine exposure. Is that what you call that gunk they forced me to drink? You drank it? Oh. Oh no. They told me it was only being tested on plants. Oh, Beck, sweetie, I promise I didn't know. Mum, what the hell is going on at this place? I was brought here to work on the discovery of a lifetime. A novel chemical compound was discovered under Beacon Pines in a wellspring they called the Source. They named it Tempus Liquamine. It pulls energy from its surroundings in order to fundamentally alter matter's relationship to time. It was the secret to Valentine's fertilizer. They harvested the source, infusing small amounts of Tempus Liquamine into the product. Oh, and it like made the plants grow really fast as fertilizer? Yo, that's awesome. It worked wonders, drastically accelerating plant growth. It's all coming together. Crops would be ready to harvest in a fraction of the time, but it led to complications. The foul harvest. Perennial harvest came in to clean up the mess. To succeed where Valentine failed. But Tempus Liquamine is rebellious, or liquamine. What sounds better? Tempus Liquamine, Liquamine, Liquamine. Rebellious? You can think of it as a manifestation of change itself. It's volatile by its very nature. So the more you try to force it to do a specific thing, the more it resists, yes. I can relate. My role was to finish the work of my predecessor, Dr. Prescott. Harnessing Tempus Liquamine, Liquamine, doesn't matter, doesn't exist, to reliably manipulate an organism's age. Just imagine how many people we could feed. Mr. Kerr was very insistent we achieve a successful result before today's festival. But you didn't, right? Nellie sighed. You know how much I love a good puzzle? I poured myself into the problem. It wasn't long until I discovered oddities in Dr. Prescott's notes. Oddities? They contained obvious errors, mistakes that someone of his reputation would never make. He was doing it on purpose. So I fixed them, and now I get to replace my entire wardrobe. I really am truly sorry. Those clothes were all hand-me-downs anyway. Sounds like Dr. Prescott figured it out, got cold feet, and intentionally sabotaged his own work. I had considered that possibility. I've sent a letter asking him to clarify. Dr. Prescott's dead. Kerr had him killed. What? I overheard them talking about it on the radio. That's why we got to get you out of here? Like, now? Wait, the vial? I finally solved the chemical equation, allowing direct control of aging. Mr. Kerr picked it up just before you came. All the more reason we gotta hightail it. Luca, we've got Dr. Murdville heading our way now. Your way. Roger that, be careful. Alright, everything's on track. And what is your plan for escape? We'll go over everything when they get here. In the meantime, maybe we can dig up some more info. Malisated proof whiskey. A hard drink for a hard man. Even this alcohol is arrogant. Solomon muttered inaudibly. I should just smother you right now. What's that? I said I shouldn't bother you right now. Don't be silly, you're no bother at all. Let's see what else this bad boy has on it. Security system. Time card log. Payroll. You know, for being so evil, this guy sure is boring. Solomon muttered. Just you wait. Uh-huh? Oh, nothing. Luca tugged on each of the cabinets. Dang, this must be the good stuff. They're all locked. Perhaps he's not as careless as you suspected. Eh. Looks like the founder was helping Kerr plan the festival. Why would such a secretive leader be obsessed with a party? Only time will tell. Luca held his hand up to the ashtray. Still warm. He must have been in there recently. we gonna discover? Can't look at the picture now. The darts on the sun. Sorry you got dragged into this mess, Solomon. You needn't worry about me. But I feel bad either way. We're gonna get you out of this, I promise. With a subtle quivering lip, a smile crawled across Solomon's face. They heard the trampling of frantic footsteps from the hallway. Lock it, lock it, lock it! Locked. That was close. When we left Nolly's office, it was swarming with clipboards. We barely got away. Did they follow you? Rollo. Before we start tossing blame around, is it possible someone ordered a pizza? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Definitely not pizza. What now? Don't look at me, I'm officially retiring from the heisting business. We're so sorry for the inconvenience. We just have a few quick questions. Let me think. Can someone watch the door? Of course. Everyone else huddle up. Don't trust... Oops. I think this little caper's gone on long enough. Solomon, no. Hush now, child. The adults are speaking. Dr. Modeville, a brief reintroduction is in order. We've never met in person, but we have corresponded. You see, it was I who hired you. Solomon, the pathetic orphan child, the powerful and enigmatic founder. Sharper, the fallen progenitor who created this town. Perennial harvest, Valentine fertilizer, all connected by a single thread. Yours, truly. But that's... Her eyes searched the floor in thought. Solomon watched eagerly, waiting for the flicker of epiphany. With a sickened look, she peered into his soul. Haha, yes. Now you've got it. Tempus liquamine. You discovered how to reverse the process. Solomon clapped with genuine delight. Very good, Dr. Lodwell, very good. Though the discovery wasn't intentional. Solomon glanced down, examining his youthful form. And the effects went a little too far for my tastes. That's why you needed me to finish Dr. Prescott's work. Which you did, admirably. Mr. Kerr, the vial, please. Kerr presented it with a theatrical twirl of the hand. May I present to you the 8th wonder? Before he could finish, Rollo snatched the vial from Kerr's palm. Wow, this stuff sounds pretty valuable. Be careful, you fool. You have no idea what you have in your hand. Actually, we do. You just did a whole evil villain monologue thingy about it. Rollo casually tossed the vial to Luca. Gosh, maybe I'll have a taste. Aged up Luca? Luca jiggled the vial mockingly. Seize him! Luca, over here. Move another inch and I smash it. She held it tightly behind her back. Solomon sighed, speaking in crisp, measured syllables. You have no plan. I'll smash it, I swear. Fine. Risk killing us all. Or, if you're lucky nothing happens, then what? We capture you and grant you much less leniency. He pursed his lips with feigned sincerity. But I give you my word. If you hand it over now, none of you will be harmed. A deep uncertainty washed over Beck. You're a smart girl, Beck. But there's no shame in being outwitted by someone smarter than you. We both know there's only one way this ends. She looked to Nellie, shakily. With a dispirited nod, Nellie sighed in defeat. Beck slowly approached Solomon. That's a good girl. Beck, don't do it. We can't trust that jerk. Sorry, he's right. With apprehension, Beck conceded. Solomon pocketed the vial and brushed off his shoulder with a sharp flick. Mr. Kerr, you have allowed yourself to be humiliated by a group of children. Report to my office tomorrow for a performance review. The blood drained from Kerr's face. Of course, sir. But first, you have a speech to make. Trot out there and give me the introduction I deserve. And don't forget to smile. Yes, sir. And to think all of this is thanks to the efforts of Mr. Van Horn. I don't understand. How's the circus a mill? I said, Mr. Van Horn, silly child. Dr. Walt Van Horn. Your father was always a thorn in my side. I offered him an opportunity to be part of something great. But the fool was blinded by righteousness. He even broke into my laboratory in an attempt to sabotage my work. Solomon shook his head with gratification. But the universe has a funny way of correcting course. By meddling with a force he didn't understand, Walt showed me its true potential. As fate would have it, Luca, your father's dying act was to grant me eternal life. A muffled applause resonated faintly through the walls. Well, that's my cue. After the festivities of my subsequent ascension, I will return to deal with you all. Until then, I suggest you use this time to reflect on the magnitude of your failure. You three keep post. Well, crap. Can't believe Beck sold us out like that. Not sure she had another choice. So what now? What's the plan? Don't have one. Of course you do. You always have a plan. Rollo. You just need some time? Rollo, it's over. We lost. I think she did something. I think she switched it. Like she said, she finally used the chemistry kit or something. Nellie was staring at the floor, deep in thought. Sorry, Luca. Give me a minute. Hey. Sorry, Luca. I did what I had to do. I know. It's just... we were so close. I got a feeling that eventually Solomon will get what's coming to him. Time wounds all heals. Well, time seems like less of an issue for him now. Luca, there's something you should know. After Mr. Kerr locked me in that office, I had nothing but time and curiosity. I poked around a bit, hoping to find a means of escape, but I found something else. A note hidden in a full straw. What sort of note? Dr. Prescott must have sensed his time at Perennial Harvest was growing short. He left behind a letter, with the hope it would be found by his successor. It was a confession of sorts. He left it for me, but its contents... Luca, I think they were meant for you. Why? What did it say? It was about an incident with your mother. Dr. Prescott found her in his lab with a stolen keycard. There was an accident. She'd been exposed to extreme amounts of Tempus liquamine. The colour dropped from Luca's face. Did she... is she... She survived. Dr. Prescott decided to help her recover. He no longer trusted Perennial Harvest, so he kept her whereabouts a secret. Over time, your mother led him to reconsider the purpose of scientific discovery. Science is often at the vanguard of change, but that doesn't mean it's always right. He realized that no one should have control over something as powerful as time itself. I now believe that's why he began to intentionally sabotage his own work. and it cost him his life. It's a reasonable conclusion. Luca was overwhelmed with emotion. But if she's alive, where's she been? Where is she now? A sudden explosion sounded from the hall. Comeuppance. Ears still ringing, Gran picked herself up off the ground. Through the dust and smoke, she looked over to see Mrs. Fratelli helping Hiram Tolliver to his feet. She'd have to beg, borrow, and steal to acquire those explosives. How many nights had she spent visualizing how she'd use them to make things right? And now her one shot at destroying the source, that damned hole that swallowed so much of her life, was gone. Traded for this jagged hole in a wall and a foolhardy shot at rescuing Rollo. With Fratelli and Tolliver at her side, she stepped through. It was a strange feeling. The last time she'd stalked this maze of hallways, it was in a different body. They quickly rounded a corner to find the group of clipboards guarding a door. Something worth guarding is probably something worth seeing. She leapt forward, brandishing her cane. If her last chance at vengeance for things lost was truly gone, she would just have to fight to keep what she still had.
Hiya! Judo chop.
Gran, what are you doing here?
Luca, what are you doing here?
We're here to save Nellie.
We're here to save Rollo.
Hey, Miss Luca Gran. Mrs. Luca's Gran. Hey, Mrs. Luca's Gran. How you doing? All right, hello. That's awful nice of you, but I'm fine.
Oh no, what did they?
Gran, there's no time to explain. We have to go now. Come on, everyone. We got a party to crash. They made their way out from deep within Perennial Harvest just as Solomon finished up his speech. Thankfully, we can dispense with the formalities from here on out. Solomon pulled a glass vial from his pocket. We've got to stop him. In one smooth motion, he downed its contents. A triumphant smile grew across Solomon's lips. No. Well, guess that's it. We lost? I wouldn't be so sure about that. With a mischievous look, Beck elbowed Luca. Remember when I had the vial behind my back? I might have tweaked his wonder potion with a little... Ooh. It's got to be change, right? Because that's what everything's about. But Malice is the one we just got. Like, that would be the most recent one that would actually, like, lead somewhere. Because we've had change since the beginning, right? But that's... I feel this one. Change. Like pocket change. Your unlucky penny. Yeah, I plopped it in the vial when no one was looking. What's that gonna do? No idea. That's the beauty of science. Now, we observe. You can all call me Sharper Valentine. His body and face began to contort and expand as he disappeared into a belching green mist. Holy crap, he's a baby? Yeah, but he's still Sharper, right? What he was no longer matters. This is an innocent child. He's actually very cute. I apologize for all the harm my father has caused you. Heiress awkwardly cradled the squirming child. She looked to her brother, her voice shaking with uncertainty. Augustus, what do we do? We do what Valentines always do. What must be done? I'll hurry home and prepare a crib for young Sharper. That would be a great help. Thank you. She looked back down at the infant with equal parts kindness and terror in her eyes. With a shake of her head, Heiress addressed the crowd with a stern scowl. Okay, everyone. Show's over. You may leave. Epilogue. That's new. Beacon Pines' coldest summer on record came and went without much fanfare. Folks shared what they had and none were left wanting. The new school year was ushered in by the falling leaves of autumn. After everything Luca, Rollo and Beck had been through, middle school was bearable. The chill of winter didn't seem to bother people much. They kindled a hope for a better future in their hearts. When spring arrived, farmers planted their crops with a sense of joy and optimism. And as the dawn of the first day of summer came again, its light slowly spread through the shallow valley. It crept over the town square, across the river, past the neglected welcome sign, and came to rest on a young boy, sleeping at dawn. His mind at peace, knowing he's here for a reason. Rollo, you up yet? Roger that. It's a beautiful day at Mission Control. You gonna swing by? Be there in a minute. Over time, Eleanor began moving Walt's things out of the closet and into storage. Eleanor had moved back into her bedroom, and now that she wasn't sneaking out late, she even slept there most nights. Hi, Mum. Just making some jam. Mum, I'm ready to go now.
You go on without me, I'll meet you there. I've got a batch of jam to finish jarring. It's funny, I only started making jam as a way to send messages without anyone noticing. But now, I enjoy it.
It's a shame like they couldn't make... I wonder if there is an ending where they make something and bring Mum back and we can see Mum. Turn Gran back into a yummy mummy. What? Oh, let's go see Dad. Gone. Achoo. What the shit? Hey, you and Rollo have big plans for that little treehouse? Yeah, it started getting crowded after we revoked the max capacity run Rollo run Luca rule. We decided to expand. At least we got some help. How's the internship at Nellie and Alona's shop going? It's been great. Hoping it helps me get into the School of Agriculture up at State. Also, Nellie said she'd write a letter of recommendation, which would be huge. Just can't help but worry about leaving Rollo. He's grown up so fast, but he's still my little brother. Yeah, he had a heck of a growth spurt. I don't just mean grown literally. This morning he was up and finished his chores before I even had breakfast. Wow, some of that might be his excitement about the treehouse renovations. Don't tell him this because it'll go to his head, but really proud of that little punk. Sure he feels the same way. He's just too dang proud to tell you. I know. The P word, pride, proud, gets me every time when people are proud of people. Hey guys, how's the tree planting?
Couldn't be better. I'm so grateful to Lona and Nellie for letting me help. I just wasn't built to be a mayor. Too much bureaucracy.
Gus, we finished cleaning up the sidewalks. What's next? When Perennial Harvest collapsed, most of the clipboards skipped town. But some stuck around and dedicated themselves to making things right.
Anyone with a knack for art can help paint new office.
You can count on us. Well, looks like you really found your calling. Never really felt comfortable telling people what to do. This right here. This is something I can be proud of. How's the napping? Most underrated part of a good nap is the view. And the view's getting greener every day. Nice. I see you decided on a name. Yep, we had to clear out all the old stuff before putting on the final touch. Slow and Dirty Harvest is now official. Excuse me? I like it. It was actually Nellie's idea. There's still a lot of work to do, and the name serves as a reminder. Just because progress is important doesn't mean change should happen fast. In fact, I've learned the more you care about something, the more important it is to take things slow. Our motto is go slow and fix things.
Amen to that.
Slow and dirty? Oh my god. Someone should have had a word about them naming it that. Where do you work? Slow and dirty. I'd be like, oh. Okay. Young Mr. Van Horn. How's little Solomon Sharper doing? Young Sharper seems to enjoy nature more than I. So we do a lot of strolling these days. Has he, you know, attempted to crawl out of his crib and plot world domination? Yeah. Thankfully, no. I spoke at length with Dr. Modewell, and she feels that Sharper's infant mind was not developed enough to retain his previous memories. For all intents and purposes, the child's unmolded clay. Let's hope he's a little nicer the second time around. That is the objective, yes. But really, all I can do is try. And hope. Two activities I'm endeavouring to find less distasteful. Well, I think you're doing a great job. And the whole town's ready to help out however we can. I can't wait to teach him to throw a baseball. Eris did her best to ignore the tears welling in her eyes. Oh, that would be acceptable. Tears in my eyes. He looked to his friends with a thankful smile. After everything that could have gone wrong, everything that did go wrong, we made it. The end. Closing her eyes, Miss Hatch took a deep, relaxing breath. Oh, hello, Luca. How are you? Really good, actually. It's wonderful. Did I miss anything? I think you're pretty much up to speed. Her lines have been echoing what's been going on in the game the whole time. What's today's news that needs knowing? I'll give you tomorrow's headline today. Our old friend Patrick C. Montesquieu, aka William Kerr, just performed a stirring rendition of The Ass Man Cometh at the State Correctional Facility. I hear there wasn't a dry eye in the house. I guess he has plenty of time to work on his craft. I gotta visit everywhere before the treehouse. I need all the epilogues. Luca, do you want a biscotti? On the house. I don't really have time. Zariel, you gotta come see this. Finally did it. Built the perfect espresso. Oh, Lumi. If I didn't know better, I'd think you're proud of something. As if I know. It's too late. You're now officially a person that cares. Wow, back for seconds. If it's not too much trouble. For the longest time, I didn't understand the appeal of ice cream. It serves no purpose, other than to briefly be enjoyed and then it's gone. It's pretty tasty while it lasts. I'm inclined to agree. Hey Luca, can you tell Roxy I'll be free in an hour? Sure thing. My dad's making me stock the shelves for the summer. He said it builds character. I think he meant to say it builds calluses. Builds character? Yeah, it builds something. Luca, can I interest you in a delicious apple? He playfully waggled an apple. No thanks, just saying hello. Oh, hello then. Mind telling your mum we need a new crate of jam? Already? It's funny, I used to hide this stuff in the back. Terrified someone would find out about our secret messages. Now everyone wants to get their hands on Eleanor Van Horn's famous spy jam. One more spank of the melon. Goodbye, little melon. Big melon, actually. Big old melon. What's happening here? Over the school year, Cato and Bert had become close friends.
But did you know that where they covered up the source, they found a new species of fungus?
Yep, and they're studying it in the new labs. Did you know that Beacon Pines is now the smallest town in the county?
Yep, close to population before perennial harvest moved in.
It typically went on like this for quite some time. Luca peeked over Piper's shoulder, laid stealthily inside a large volume of mathematics. It was the first issue of Hank Atomic. Piper, you reading Hank Atomic? Do you mind not telling anyone? Kinda got a reputation to uphold.
Nothing to be ashamed of. Just about every kid in town reads Hank Atomic. Honestly, I'm excited for you. What I'd give to start over fresh, to experience it again for the first time.
I guess that's the downside of finishing something nice.
At least now I can enjoy it again through you. Promise to tell me about it as you go.
Sure thing. And there in a nutshell is why playthroughs and reaction channels and everything else is so compelling. I guess I'll talk to this character even though we ignored them a little bit. Can't believe it's over.
Yeah, the town's really starting to turn a new leaf.
The town? I was talking about Hank Atomic. I just finished the last issue.
How was it?
It was great as always. Hank finally returned to Earth. But I just feel weird now.
Weird can be cool. Just means you're ready for something new.
Any suggestions?
You could ask Miss Hatch about what she's always reading. She seems to enjoy it.
All talking about endings and new beginnings, for it is the end of the game.
Hey, Mr. Nuncreed. Gonna go see my dad in a bit. Did you want to come, Rev?
Even after everything I did, you'd still...
Mr. Nuncreed shook his head.
You really are your father's son, ain't you? I don't think I'm ready for that, yeah.
Well, you're always invited. He'd love to hear from you.
I'll visit Walt in my own time. You run along now.
Jeff's wild ride. With perennial harvest gone, the transportation tubes were left unused.
Come on, come on. No one's too big, no one's too small for Jeff's wild ride.
Maybe not completely unused.
It's one piece of candy for the ride of your life. Who's next?
No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Guess what? Yesterday I saw a Didymus.
That's good.
It's great. I haven't spotted one of those in years. At this rate, Beacon Pines is going to become bug capital of the county.
Are the bees back? Can't look at it. The Valentine Mansion loomed over every other building in town, both figuratively and literally. Beck's house. This has been such an amazing game, such a journey. I'm sad it's coming to an end. I'm wondering if there's like some other endings with those charms at the end there, but this epilogue seems pretty conclusive for a wrap-up for all the characters. And I'm really glad, actually, that I got all of the other endings before this one. I think I literally, honestly, I think I got every ending and then the canon ending. Like, I went through every, like, just by chance, you know? I think if I'd got to this ending straight away, I wonder how quickly you could get to this one. but I've seen it be like much shorter, I think. And this has been like 8 hours or something, but I'm so glad. Like I got everything and it felt right. Like all of the process we went through with the other endings felt right. Mrs. Fratelli glowed with a carefree smile. Is that your suitcase? That
is 2 weeks of unencumbered tranquility.
Excuse me? Would you be so kind as to take my order?
2 weeks of Sam, margaritas, and forgotten obligations.
Excuse me. I'd love to place an order. Mrs. Fratelli sighed with zen-like calm.
Just as soon as the lunch rush ends, I'll be a feather on the wind.
Going on vacation?
For the first time in years. And I got you and your mum to thank.
I don't know why I gave you this voice. I apologize. Why's that?
She didn't tell you yet. You two are going to fill in for me at the diner while I'm gone. Just like old times.
It's fine, I'll wait. Cute. Luca's going to work at the diner. Glad you swung by. More follow-up questions for Story? Nope. Got everything I need. Thanks again. I sent a draft of the story to a reporter in Capital City. They offered me an internship. Of course they did. You're an amazing reporter. Don't know about all that. Story about a phony corporation. Picked up an entire town of people, moved them to cover up a massive illegal mine shaft full of incredibly hazardous chemicals. Sort of writes itself if you think about it. Just don't forget us when you become a fancy big city reporter. Capital City isn't that far away. Gonna have to come back from time to time and check in. See what sort of new trouble you've gotten yourself into. Sorry to disappoint, but my adventure in Days is over. We both know that's not true. What makes you say that? Call it reporter's intuition. Good for you, Batty. Did we ever go in the town hall? I don't think it exists. It's a mystery. Alright, to the treehouse to finally close the book. Luca, get this. I managed to reel in an actual fish this morning. Seriously? Yeah, an honest-to-goodness flip-flop and swim-swamming fish. Don't think I've ever caught an actual fish here. Been at least 7 years since I caught one. Say it's a good omen. What'd you do with it? I released it back into the pond, hoping to catch it again tomorrow. Ah, it's really cute. A little higher. Yup. A little lower. Yup. A little higher. Yup. I'm telling you, angle isn't the issue. We need more power to radio. Luca, there you are. Would you tell him it's not the angle? Hey, I'm not in charge of antenna redesign. Fine, fine. Iggy, just don't do anything drastic till we get back. Who? Me? Tish, you're in charge while I'm gone. Yup. So cute. That'll be fine, right? It'll be fine. If we really want mission control to turn into something bigger and better, we have to loosen our grip a bit. You're right. Lead the way. Check in with Beck. Ah, so I was probably supposed to pick you up and then talk to everyone. Well, that's okay. Now we go to Beck's house. I didn't want to miss anything, you know? Run around and talk to everyone first. The gang's all here. I have news I think you'll enjoy. This morning I unpacked my last box. You officially moved in. It's just a box. Let's not blow this out of proportion. Sounds an awful lot like putting down roots. I guess I decided this place is root-worthy. They're gonna be stuck with me for the foreseeable future. The fact Rollo is still just an adult now. He's like aged 20 years on them or something. I do have to warn you, most years aren't going to be as interesting as this one. I think I'll manage. Ready? Before we go, there's a bit of a surprise. The booster. My mum prepared this tree, especially for you. I didn't have to do that. He's gonna replant the tree. Oh. Wasn't just them. Just about the whole town pitched in. We all owe you. Should be okay in the cold of old Beacon Pines. Thrive as things warm up. Perfect. Oh my god. Because it's his favourite place, but he's in the other place. Oh no, I'm gonna cry. Let's take it.
Ah, you got it. That's a good looking tree. Being a special occasion and whatnot. This ride's on the house. You're gonna want to hang on tight to that little tree.
I think this is it. The end I've been waiting for. Honestly, I'd begun to lose hope of ever finding it. But then you came along. I don't know exactly how to thank you. It's hard to explain how much this means to me. It's funny, now that our time together is finally ending, I'm at a loss for words. Me too. Let's just watch the end. Together. Dan. Good little tree. The best little tree.
Thank you, children. This means a lot.
Yeah, thanks. For everything. Shocks. You only did what any super awesome best body would have done. We should probably give you some time alone. You good? Yeah, I am. It's been a wild year. How are you feeling? Everyone keeps asking me that. I'm fine, really. Pa always says the only thing fitter than a fiddle is a cello. I feel like a dang cello. Well, if you ever stop feeling like a cello, I'm here for you.
Why is this game so cute? Oh, God.
I know, you don't even have to say it. You two make an awesome pair. Excuse me? We're a trio now. Yep. Thanks. Just one thing missing now you're part of our group. Missing? Let me tell you a little story about a man named Hank Atomic. Oh God. I won't be long. We'll be waiting for you back at the phone booth. I found the perfect way to start our summer.
You got some good friends. So proud of you. Your father would be so proud.
I know. Ma'am, can I ask you a question? Do you ever dream about Dad?
Not a night goes by that I don't.
Are you ever afraid? That you're gonna forget him? Forget what he looked like? forget his voice.
No. So much of him lives on. In you. He loved that old tree. I know he would have loved this one more. Because his two favorite people planted it. I'll give you two a moment.
Hey, Dad. Dr. Modwell says that over the next few years this place should warm up. You won't have to be cold for much longer. I think I finally understand why you left that night. There were things you believed in. Big things. Those beliefs were the things that made you, you. If you wouldn't have stood up to Sharper, stood up for what you believed in, you wouldn't have been the same person anymore. You had to go. It didn't mean you loved us any less. I might not visit you as much as I used to. I know you understand. Oh, God. So moving. Oh, we got the full ending. Fully crying. Oh, God. This game was so good. So moving, so emotional, so poignant, so beautiful, so cute, so creepy, so mysterious. I loved it. It's perfect. Well done, team. Actually amazing. I hope you enjoyed it as well. If you did, hit that like, leave me a comment. Let me know what part made you emotional, if any. I know I'm a broken, soft person that cries pretty easily, but some of you must have gotten emotional at some of it. I would love to hear what your favourite parts are, favourite little things and stuff. Let's talk about it in the comments, and I will see you in the next playthrough. We love playing indie games here and finding these gems. I haven't even seen many people playing this one at all. It's flying under the radar, but I really hope more people discover it, because it's amazing. 10 years later? I was just sat here through the credits. Oh my gosh, what? Sharper, did you find it? Yeah. Whoa. I found... Oh, wow. I was just sat here letting the credits play out and everyone's names sat up in my chair so quickly. Oh, a little bit of a tease. Thank you so much for coming on this adventure into Beck and Pines with me. One of my favourite games I think that we've done on the channel, and I hope that you liked it as well. Hit one of those videos on the screen if you want to come along on another adventure right now, or subscribe to come along on another one later, and I will see you next time.